Hello and welcome to episode 46 of the Victorian Studio podcast. My name is Maureen and I'm coming to you from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada on Monday, August the 29th, 2016. Welcome to all new and returning viewers. I hope you enjoy your visit with me in my studio today. Well, over the last couple of weeks, I've been able to get some knitting done as well as some sewing. And there was a reason for me to get out the sewing machine again, and I'll share that with you a little bit later. Today's episode is going to be a little bit shorter. I'm trying to squeeze it in between dropping off my car and hopefully soon picking it up at the dealership. I'm getting some servicing done in preparation for a very special road trip that daughter and I are going to be taking this upcoming long weekend. So I'll share that with you a little bit later in the episode as well. So let's get straight to the knitting. Now, the Canada KAL is still continuing on, and there have been so many wonderful entries in the Victorian Studio podcast group over on Ravelry. We have nearly 100 entries already, and it's still going on until the end of September the 30th. So if you're still working on or planning to do some Canada-themed projects, you still have plenty of time to enter. All you have to do is make sure you're a member of our podcast group over on Ravelry and look for that FO thread over there and enter in your project. It has to have either a Canadian theme to it or be designed by a Canadian designer or made from some Canadian indie yarn. Whatever you can tell us that it relates to Canada, just please enter that in your post in the finished objects thread, please. So thank you everyone for all of your entries so far. It's been very inspiring. There's so many socks and cardigans and shawls. I tell you, I've got so many new ideas and patterns that I've been uploading to my library. So thank you everyone for all your projects and participation so far. It's been a lot of fun. So I've also been working on a couple of Canada projects, obviously not to enter into my own podcast, but to enter into other Canadian podcasters' KALs. So there are numerous other podcasters taking part in this, and if you want a list of all of them, you just have to head over to the Tangled Skeins podcast group. They're the ones that initiated this knit along, and they have all kinds of information on Canadian designers, indie dyers, suggestions for patterns and that kind of thing. So I'll make sure I link their post in my notes. So the three projects that I'm going to share with you today, one I got completed, another one I got some work done on, and the third one I started over the last couple of weeks. So let's start with the finished project. I have it in my Canada project bag that I sewed up myself, and I did that so that I could make a couple of prizes for our Canada KAL. I guess I'll share with you those first. These are the prizes, speaking of the Victorian Studio podcast group, that I'll be giving away at the end of September when the KAL closes. There's two prizes each of a knitting project bag that I sewed up myself using the maple leaf material, and also some great plaid material on the inside. The Notions pouch is exactly the same. So those are matching and have a little maple leaf charm on the zipper pull. So I sewed up two of these sets for prizes. So there'll be two prizes of each of those two bags. And also there'll be three prizes of some candy. And this is from Rocky Mountain, Canadian chocolate company. So there's some great Canada chocolate. It's milk chocolate with maple cashews. I tell you, it's been very hard not to dive into these myself. I may have to pick up some more just for me. So there's three of those, and each of those three prizes will be accompanied by a set of stitch markers that I made up myself for the Canada KAL. So each chocolate will be accompanied by a set of stitch markers and a progress keeper that has a maple leaf on it that matches the zipper pull. And I'm going to throw in some very Canadian maple candies from Pine Ridge Hollow. When daughter took me there for Mother's Day, they had these great maple candies. So I'll make sure I throw some of those into the prize envelopes as well. So when I was making up these project bags for the prizes, of course I had to make up some for myself. So I've been using this one for my socks project and the other one for my other Canada project that I'll share with you in a minute. So these socks I've been working on for a little while using Fishknits Strong Heart Fingering Sock yarn. This is some yarn that I got made up specially. I did a special order from Fishknits back last year when I saw that she was still making this, and the colorway is Canadiana, and of course it is perfect for some Canada themed socks. So I am finished my socks. Try to get those into the camera there. So these are great. They just flew off the needles. It was wonderful to do. I always do mine 2 at a time, but on 2 separate needles. So as I went, I would do the cuff on one and then the cuff on the other. I did all the stripes on one, that finished all the stripes on the other, and then did just a regular heel turn and gusset and Kitchenered the toes. So they're just a vanilla sock pattern. And speaking of which, I revised my own vanilla sock pattern just a little bit. Since I do 2 socks at a time, and every time I do my knitting, I like to check off where I am so that I don't lose my place. So I always have my patterns typed out, and I just use a pencil to mark off where I am. And so what I did was I re-typed this up for myself, and I think I'll put a link in my Ravelry notes. If you want to download this yourself, if you do socks the same way, it might help you. What I did was I created little text boxes so that as I did each section, I could write in here how many I had done, especially if I get disturbed in the middle. I'll know when I come back to the project where I was. So I have areas in here where I can mark off the rows as I do them. And it's really very, very handy, really easy to do. And I also incorporated Sarah at Pearls of Color podcast, her instructions on how to do a heel flapping gusset, because it was so much better than the way I was doing it before. So it really turned out really well. So it's just a 2-page sheet or pattern that I can use multiple times, yeah, it really comes in handy when I'm making my just regular vanilla socks. So yeah, it's great to have these off the needles, and as I mentioned, I'm going to enter these into there's numerous sock knit-alongs, so I'm going to enter into those as well as the other Canadian podcasters Canada KAL threads. So that's my finished object for this episode. The other Canadian project that I've been working on is my Cowichan sweater, and I hadn't worked on it for a little while, so I was pleased to get back to it, and it's getting really big in my larger Canada themed project bag because this is holding all of the yarn that I'm using for this project. Now, if you haven't been here before, the Cowichan sweater, I did a very special episode on. If you go back into my previous episodes, I have video links and that kind of thing talking about what a Cowichan sweater is, but you might recognize it just by me holding up this picture. This is from the White Buffalo Yarn Company that used to be here in Manitoba in Brandon. I don't believe, I think it closed down quite a while ago. Mary Maxim, I know, does similar sweaters, but this is a vintage pattern book that I had found on Etsy. And so the pattern that I decided to do was very similar to this one, but even though they call this the polar bear jacket, the bears in here are dark brown. So I switched up the colors and the design a little bit to make them look more like polar bears. And I've shown before that I had done one side. Now this is knit flat and then sewn together. It is a vintage pattern. So I had done one side, and now I've completed the second side. So I'll share that with you after I show you the yarn that I'm using for this project. I'm using Cascade Yarn's Ecological Wool, so in this oatmeal color. This is just, let's see, color 8016. I don't think they have an actual name for it. I think that they just called it online natural. I also got the same yarn from Cascade. This one's called Eco Plus, but it's the same. And this is color 8400, kind of a dark gray. And I'm also using various yarns for the white areas of the sweater or jacket. The first one I'm using is the Barocco Ultra Alpaca Chunky, and I'm using this for some of the design work at the top and bottom, because I only was able to find one of these at the local yarn shop. I've been doing the two front polar bears for each side in this On a Quest for Fiber yarn that I received, and I got this last year, and this has some of, oh gosh, I can't remember her name now. I'll link her profile, and she used to have a podcast or some videos up, so I'll link those. But she has bunnies, and some of her bunnies fur is also in this. It's beautiful, beautiful, really, really soft. I don't think it says on there exactly what the content is, but what I did was, because it's thinner, I doubled this up for the polar bears on the front of my jacket. And then on the back of the jacket, I don't have it in this bag, is some of the white buffalo yarn. Now, white buffalo yarn is almost like a roving, and it comes in a big ball of about 6 strands that you knit all together as one, and that's why they make these very big chunky jackets out of them. So I didn't have very much of it because it is vintage yarn that my mother passed on to me when she was cleaning out her knitting supplies, so I didn't have a lot. So I wanted to save that special yarn for the polar bear on the back of the jacket. So hopefully that's the part that I'll be doing next. I have the back, the sleeves, the pocket insides, and the collar to do. And then once you have all the pieces, it's basically just assembling them all into the jacket or sweater. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to put a zipper in the front or not. I probably will, but I've been knitting these on 2 sizes of needles. You do the bottom rib work in a smaller needle at the 10.5 US 10.5 needles. So I've just been using my Dreams for that. And then the only circulars I had in the larger needles, and that's a US size 13, were these bamboo. And they've just been working well for this, but it goes along so quickly. These are just the clover, yeah, US size 13. So it just really goes so very quick when you're using such big needles. It's such a difference from knitting socks on such small needles to going to size 13s. So when I have been working on this, it has been going very quickly. So what I've been doing is I photocopied the pattern, and then I've just been using highlighters to keep track of where I am. And what I did for the first section, or the first side, I used a yellow highlighter, and then I used the same pattern. I just used a blue highlighter to then keep track of where I was the next time around. And what I had to do for the second time around is actually reverse the polar bears. I wanted them both facing each other, facing in. So when I did it the second time, I made sure that I read the pattern backwards so that I could get the polar bear facing the other way. So I'll show those parts to you now. And it'd be kind of hard to show the whole thing at once, but this top white design is where I used the Barocco yarn. And then this is where I used the On a Quest for Fiber white yarn on the polar bear. And what I did was I changed up the design. I gave it a little more detail because I had more stitches, because this yarn is smaller than the white buffalo yarn. I have more stitches, and so I made the pattern of the polar bear with a little more detail. And then you cast off and on again for a pocket. There'll be a pocket sewn in the back. And then again, the Barocco was used on this white design at the bottom. So that's the right side with the bear facing in. And this is the left side with the bear also facing in, but they'll be facing each other when the sweater or jacket, because it's going to be fairly warm when it's finished. So they'll be facing each other with the zipper in the middle here. So yeah, maybe I'll try to put in some pictures at the end so that you can see it a little bit better. It's kind of hard to show in two pieces, but I'm really pleased with it so far. As I said, you know, it's been going along really quickly, and it's been a lot of fun doing all the color work. I really enjoy doing that. So it's probably about a third done with the two fronts. Like I said, the next one will be the back and then the sleeves. So yeah, I still have another month or so to get that finished. So let's see, the last project that I wanted to share with you is in something that I sewed up yesterday. I watched the latest episode of Kim at Me, My Dog, and Some Yarns podcast. She's been away for a little bit with a house move, and when she returned, she mentioned that she was going to be having a knit along, and she was asking if any other podcasters would like to co-host. So I wanted to offer my services to both test knit some socks that she's doing and co-host a sock knit along that she's going to be starting September the 1st. So she was very kind to accept my offer, and so I wanted to make sure that I knit or sewed up some prizes for that knit along. So I'll share that with you as well. When I was doing the prizes, of course, I had to make a set for myself, and this is more project bags. So this is with some bird material that, if you've been here before, you probably recognize, that I got a few months back, I guess. I really love this bird material. It was on sale so cheap at the fabric store. And then I also got some really pretty material for the inside that has birds' names on it. So they match up really, really nicely. So my next project I'm going to share with you, I've used my bag, and I'll share with you also the prize for the knit along that's the same as this. So if you were here the last episode where I showed my maple leaf shawl, you'll remember that I had some yarn left over because I ended up not using all the hand-dyed yarn that I had made up for that shawl. So what I did was as I was going through that shawl, I cut out large sections of my dyeing so that I could have a gradient from yellow to dark red. And the leftover yarn I balled up into two balls. They were identical, but I'm a little bit further in one than the other. And I am making some socks out of the leftover yarn. So I got started with one cuff, and so I like knitting mine cuff down. So that's just a 2x2 rib, 20 rows of my usual. And I was going to do just a plain vanilla sock. And then gradually go from the yellow right through to the red in that ball for that sock. And then I started on a second one. But as I got started, I thought I just finished a plain vanilla sock. So what I decided to do was finally use a pattern that I had purchased a little while back from Mina Phillip of the Knitting ExPat podcast. By the way, Nina, congratulations on your wonderful news. I'm very, very happy for you. So that's just incredible. Mina has a set of Beyond Vanilla socks, and she has volume 1 that was out a while ago. She's just released volume 2, and in volume 1 there's a set of 4 different patterns. So I'm starting with her first one, the Pebble socks, and these are wonderful. I mean, she writes such a wonderful, easy to follow sock pattern, and what she does is she has a pattern on the front, and then it's just plain stockinette on the back of the sock. So this has been a lot of fun to do. So after I did the 2x2 rib on the second sock, I continued on and started with her vanilla, or her pattern for the Pebble socks on the front. And as you can see, that's how it's knitting up on the back. And I'm just getting to the second color in my leftover ball of the orange. So this will get deeper orange and then on to the reds to the end of the sock. So I think I have plenty of yarn to do these, and I'm really enjoying the pattern. It's so simple, but I really love the texture that comes out in those. So highly recommend Mina's sock patterns. I mean, she's the queen of sock knitting. She just goes through so many so quickly that she knows her stuff. So it's been fun to do another one of her patterns. So this one, I was going to work on some more, but as I mentioned, daughter and I are going to be taking a trip in a couple of days. So I purposely set this aside because I'm going to take this with me on our trip for my knitting in the evenings. So I think that will be a lot of fun to work on, and it'll be easy to take on a trip. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So if you're interested in participating in the Socktember KAL, it's a knit along, crochet along, head over to the Me, My Dog and Some Yarn podcast group. She'll have the details on how to enter in hers. Mine is going to be very, very simple, very casual KAL. It'll start September the 1st. It goes until November 30th. Kim has most generously donated one of her bags as a prize to the Victorian Studio podcast members who finish projects. Now, you don't have to start on September 1st. I'm going to accept works in progress as long as you don't have more than 50% of your socks done by September 1st. You can certainly enter in those whips into this KAL. And be sure to double dip into Kim's as well. So like I said, this is going to go until November 30th. So it'll be Kim's project bag will be one of the prizes in our group, as well as another set of project bags that I made up yesterday. So this is going to go to one lucky winner. You're going to get this project bag. It's the same as the one I made for myself, with the bird fabric on the outside and then the bird names fabric on the inside. And the notions bag is the same, and this is a nice big notions bag. It's easy to hold all kinds of things like scissors and notepads and things like that, as well as just the smaller stitch markers and other notions that you carry around. So I like having a nice big bag. So those are matching. On the big bag there's going to be a little feather stitch marker or charm on the zipper. And also, to go along with this set is going to be another stitch marker and progress keeper set that matches. So that progress keeper again has a nice little feather on it, the same as that is on the project bag. So one lucky winner will get all 3 of these items in this knit along. So thank you so much, Kim, for allowing me to co-host this Socktember knit along with you. I'm very excited to see all the socks that are going to be entered in here. There are so many different sock knit alongs right now that you'll be able to double and triple and quadruple dip your projects into, but I think it'll be a lot of fun to participate in this one as well. So thank you very much, and it's great to see you back again. So let's see, I'm just going to check and see if I have anything else to share. Okay, as I mentioned, the car is in today getting servicing because I want it in tip-top shape, because daughter and I are going to head out, get down to the States on Friday and come back next Monday. So we're going to have a nice 4 days together. We're heading down to Minneapolis and do some shopping, but that wasn't the reason for this trip. The reason why this all came up so pretty quickly is we found daughter an antique spinning wheel, just like mine, except with a larger wheel. And it's just a few hours outside of Minneapolis. So we thought it'd be wonderful to go pick this up, but also combine it with a little mother-daughter shopping trip down to the States again. I don't believe we did one last year, but previous years we would go down once a summer and spend a few days down at the Mall of America and hitting up Buffalo, Minnesota, which is filled with antique shops. So of course we're going to do that again. So we're going to have a nice time, I know, going down to the States, doing some antiquing and some shopping and having some mom-daughter time together. And the hotels are all booked, and I was even able to use all my air miles, so all of our hotels are free. So it was wonderful to have that opportunity to use those up before they started taking those air miles away at the end of the year. So yeah, we're looking forward to having a few days down there, and we'll have a drive out past Minneapolis to pick up her wheel. I'll put a picture of it here so that you can see what's awaiting us. And yeah, it's a beautiful Lawrence wheel, just like mine. Mine has a smaller wheel, hers will be larger, but they're both about between 100 and 150 years old. So it's a Canadian production wheel. So as I said to daughter, we're going to be bringing old Canadian back home to our country with us. So we're really looking forward to finally picking up her wheel and getting her started in her spinning. So I know she's very excited about that, and it's good timing too, because in about a little over a month or so is going to be the Manitoba Fiber Festival. So for sure she'll be able to pick up a lot of fiber there and really get some good practice in on her brand new to her antique wheels. So very exciting. I hope to have lots of photos and video to share with you on our trip when I return. The next podcast episode will be September the 12th, so hopefully I'll have lots to share with you then on our trip. So until then, thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I hope you enjoyed seeing what I've been up to. And thank you again for all your participation, all the new members in the group, all the new subscribers on YouTube. Thank you so very much. I really do appreciate it. So I hope you all have a great couple of weeks, and we'll see you again on September the 12th. Until then, bye-bye everyone.